updates in the chats. Looks like the stuff he presented last week at SoFried is similar to the updates he was going to provide. But yeah, Ash, I'll follow up with Andy, see what his thoughts are, and bring that back to the group. All right, you guys want to start going down the top here? Looks like GDPR is like
I'll give my update on that one. So it's actually on me, and I've been a little bit behind. I plan to come back to it with regards to the spec. I know Mitch had been asking as to how he can help. So I've been behind almost a week now, and I plan to actually work on it today because this is at a time where this has to be done. So I'll work on it today, and then I'll message back on the Slack channel as to what I think we need to do in the upcoming release.
I think it's not only the Slack channel, but it's also the documents Pavel already created, and there have been a lot of discussion within the documents from Mitch and me as a couple of comments. Maybe the others want to have a look at it as well.
Yep. Daniel, you had a blog today on this?
Sorry, me? No, not yet.
No, Daniel, you had a blog, right? I saw something on Facebook.
Yes, a German one, right?
No, I did something about the security strategy on T-Sexy.
Strategy, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
saw Facebook didn't really read much into it yet.
No biggie.
Okay. So one thing that I'm seeing, at least in many companies, just about any company that, SaaS companies, they've been sending emails. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. So there's a good marketing aspect of this besides the actual physical changes needed. A lot of people are actually taking getting onto the bandwagon and, hey, we're now GDPR compliant, like things like Dropbox, Zendesk, all larger corporations. So it'll be good on us as well.
Ash, could you review my document? Could you check which of the items are missing, how to deal with these stuff, whether you say it's not necessary, or we're using an existing other solution, or we postpone it and we'll implement it later, so we can make a sum up post on it about the DNN strategy on GDPR.
Yep.
That would be helpful.
And Ash, to that point with GDPR and the release of 9.3, what, I know you kind of mentioned this Friday being a target date to be, feature done, given that it is Tuesday afternoon. What is the plan from a GDPR and a 9.3 release realistically from a feature lock versus, last pull request release timeline for that? Or do we have enough of that detail yet?
We don't have enough detail yet. I think we would, of course, there's a drop dead date of 4/25/25. So we want to release before that, at least a week before that. So we're going to have to start walking backwards. And whoever wants to do development, they need at least, my assumption is 2 weeks, right, to actually get it done. So we're just about on time to wrap up the spec and 2 weeks to submit the changes that are needed to be done so that we can have it in the process. And hopefully by 5/15 or so, just around that time, we can have a release.
Yeah, but 5/15 is 2.5 weeks from now, so we really
So we need to fine tune that. Nobody has asked me to do a release on either 5/15 or 5/20th or something like that. None of our customers have asked from Evoke for a release date yet. So there's a little bit of flexibility. Worst case, we missed the 5/25 deadline. Personally, it's not the end of the world, but we don't want to do it. I think to look good, we would want to finish it before that, but it might be coming down to the wires.
I think we should have this 9.30 before 25th of May, and maybe we postpone single features and say, okay, we will improve the work and continue in 9.3.1.
Yeah,
it could be possible, but we really should try to get 9.3.0 out of the door before the date.
yeah, and Clint, can you stop pause recording?
Yeah, hold on one
You wanna-
second. All right, we are back.
Okay.
All right, so Mitchell, do you have any updates on Oliver's caching thing? I think we're working on getting that into a pull requestable type format.
I have not. He missed the last meeting time that we had set up, and we've not been able to pin down another time. I will reach out to him again and try to get something on the calendar. I am incredibly tied up the next couple of days, but I will try to make sure to get something with him before the next meeting.
I don't know what this is about. Can somebody just give me a 1-minute recap?
Yeah, Oliver Hine has built that in-brain suite, and as part of that, he's got something called Rocket Fuel, which technical guys can probably speak to better, but it's about performance and caching, and he wants to contribute it as OSS to the core. And
Cool.
so Mitchell, before he submitted it, Ash asked that anybody who's going to submit something do like a code review with somebody else from the community, just to ensure it's in the way it needs to be. And Mitchell was going to work with them to get it to a state where they can make a pull request, and that was just what we were waiting on the update for.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so if we keep going down, so I'll add that action item that Mitchell Andrew left early, had to leave early, but he put some updates into chat. Have any of you guys been able to watch the Southern Fried replay where he talked about some of this stuff?
Nope.
I have not.
Okay. All right. All right, Sebastian, you've got proposed SQL changes.
Yes, and Mitch had a review on it, and we had a discussion on a few points, but the question is how to proceed on this point. Shall we have a voice chat again, Mitch, or what do you suggest?
Well, I think what
this is clear for you, and we should simply, should I simply start implementing?
Yeah, I think in the review, there's a couple of them I recommend breaking out into as distinct items because of what they were. I think along those lines, from my perspective, I think it looks good just making sure that we're careful that a couple of ones that were a little bit more risky, we either look at them at a later point, or separately. But from my perspective, it looks like it looks like everything else, should be okay. So following that, and then, did you share that document, Sebastian, with the rest of the group, or was that just
sure.
me?
Yeah, sure. It's in the team room, and it's been shared in the Slack channel as well.
Okay, perfect. So, anybody else wants to take a look at it? There was a couple of them there that I pushed back with some concerns about the impact of the change. If anybody has a different opinion or scope on that, might be good just to get a quick secondary review on those couple. But I think at least the first bits of them, Sebastian, those all, yeah, they looked great. I don't think there's much else other than documenting it from there. And then Ash would be the only other deciding factor in terms of how he wants to take that snippet of this is what this is what we're doing and why, into, either the JIRA ticket or pull request for documentation.
So let me know when you guys are happy with what it is, and then just hand me over. I'll review it, and then I'll suggest you the next steps.
Okay. Okay. Mitch, will you have a look again, or shall I streamline it first? Or
what probably would be good to do is to split out, and because there's those couple of ones, right, that had the kind of the pending longer questions, maybe just organize the document into, I'm going to work on these, and then push the other stuff, maybe down towards the bottom. But other than that, I think we just need to figure out what that next step of required documentation looks like.
To be clear, the situation is that some of the or most of the steps depend on each other. That means you need to do the first step to do the second one. You cannot simply skip one and start with the last one, because then it would break, because it tries to improve the stability and the integrity of our data model regarding users. And of course, it needs to start from the tiny bits, and of course some things you can simply start with, like switching from NTAGs to varchar marks, but this is too tiny to do even to put it into an extra item, in my opinion, or put extra work on it.
Okay.
The thing you saw, which is one more thing, what I try to do is not to touch the API for the developers, for the extension developers. So the API stays the same. There's a little bit within the API, is a DNN framework which needs to be adapted, but the most of the changes can be done just in SQL. That's the idea, to make it, to simply encapsulate it to prevent changes from surfacing. What will be a difference, for example, is that I suggest having more streamlined handling of super users. Because in former times, when super users were introduced in DNN1, we had no user profile, we had no option to switch a user from super user or back. And currently, we had over the time so many situations where super users got a user portal record, and in next versions they didn't get it. But when they switched from an ordinary user, if you upgrade him to a super user, then he remains having some of the user portal records, and this makes it very difficult to handle in modules. And if you try to display super users, for example, with a membership module, it will break if you have a couple of custom profile properties and so on. So I think this should be streamlined, and they should be handled like any other users, and then it's easy to make a super user turn him back into an ordinary user and up again to a super user without losing data or having much more hassle.
Yes, but that single-handedly is the one that I'm not comfortable with, because there's security implications of making that change.
Hmm.
So that's the one I want. The rest would like somebody else in the group specifically to make it happen. Because there are modules that exist today that specifically utilize the fact that a super user does not have a profile or does not have a user portals entry in preventing the display of a super user's information publicly on membership directories and otherwise. So as much as I agree it would be nice, there are some real potential unintended information disclosure risks associated with that.
No, Mitch, I think anyone who is checking for a super user, other than by checking the is super user flag in the users table, is doing something wrong, because currently we have a lot of we do not have a consistent model of user portals for super users. Some they might have user portals record for some, and for some others they don't, because in DNN5 there were user portal records created for each super user when a new portal was created. And in DNN6 this was reverted back, but they were not deleted. So we do you cannot. Currently, we have a situation where this is not a straightforward data. The view BW uses tries to overcome or shields it a little bit from the API, but in fact, the fact is that it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult in the data structure, and it makes it less efficient. And if you try to iron this inconsistency out, then we would benefit from it. And I don't see any situation where this will cause additional problems. I really see only a benefit, especially for membership modules where they can rely on having the same profile properties, on having the same.
I think what Mitch is trying to say, I think he doesn't disagree with you, and I wouldn't either. But I think what he's simply saying is that it's a very high consequence decision. So it would be valuable if at least 2 or 3 people spend some time looking into it before it's
right. I don't disagree with Sebastian, but indeed, I'll be happy to look into that.
It would be nice, Peter, having your opinion on it.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if we talking about this Razor Pages stuff last time. I think we were talking DNN10 or something like that. And with Andrew not here, I don't know if you guys want to discuss it or skip it or what?
No, skip that to the next time.
All right, Ash, do you have any updates on the security scanner tool from ESW? You're muted. I think you're muted.
Yeah, so sorry, I did not really follow up. I think it's a little bit lower on the priority side. I think we've got other items to work on. I think they just came up as a discussion last time around the store. But that's even though I find something, that's a whole. I would put a lower priority and just put it into the back burner for now.
I'll just move it down to another one here for next week. All right.
No, I don't think I would have anything next week. I think that we should have a place to park some of these, Clint, for
all
like
of the backlog, right? Our own, this team's backlog, because we may not have everything in a week's time.
Yeah, we'll get it. All right, so blogs on GDPR. I mean, can we write these until we have more information, or?
I don't feel safe at the moment as long as I don't know which changes will be in DNN.
So there are 2 aspects of this. One is the procedural changes, what you can do now without even waiting for, without even waiting for the software changes. And the second is about the specific software changes. So I think we should break it down into 2 here, Clint. Yeah, one is the pre-9.3, right? So procedural changes or general awareness around GDPR.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who's going to do that?
Ninth, yeah.
I mean, it sounds good, but it doesn't sound like anybody wants to do it.
I'm working on one for it, but it's scheduled to go into our corporate blog pipeline, so it's not something that I can. It's not something I want to do that one on DNN software. I'm a little. There's some interesting thoughts there in terms of what we want to highlight. I guess I'd almost want to see what the desired recommendation is, because it is a little bit, without some of the infrastructure support, it's a lot of manual spelunking in the database to comply. So in some ways, as much as I agree that we need a pre-9.3, but knowing what's coming in 9.3 could help pave the way to kind of explain, and it could be a reason to, with that blog post, encourage people to upgrade by, you need to do this if you're on 9.2 or later, but if you upgraded to 9.3, this is done for you. If you need to do this, it would be better for you. Might be a way to help try to encourage people to upgrade.
Yeah, I think the last time we discussed this, Mr. White, I think we're more like thought leadership type of blog, that this is, as a website owner, this is what is expected from you. This is how you should do. I mean, regardless of whether you have the tools or not, like you should be prepared. Someone can come and ask you this and this and that. And as a website owner, you should, I think it was Daniel, you brought so many things, right?
Exactly.
It's more about processes and having responsibilities and having documentation on data processing within your organization or for your website if it's isolated without an organization behind. But I think that's important for people to understand. And if they have clients or subscribers or users from Europe, they have to take care of it.
Exactly, but it is mostly, I mean, it's mostly a compliance thing, and compliance doesn't mean technology. And so, of course, I mean, we have lots of customers that are still have a DNN7, for example, and I mean, just they're not going to be able to upgrade just because of this, because the cost of upgrading is always very high. And so, just knowing what is my plan if I'm affected is one of the core questions that people just need to have answered. And I would love to write it, but I'm just totally out of resources right now.
I can try to write one, but I need to be allowed to.
We can do that, Sebastian, provided we all follow the terms and conditions, right? Be polite and not opinionated on the blogs. I guess that was one of the previous contention, right?
All right. So what about, so we're talking about the process for updates and pull requests. This was what I was going to try to document as Mitchell and Oliver work through the, pull request for his caching stuff. So there's really no updates on this unless somebody's got information on the process that needs to occur, which I think, Ash, that would be you, but we're kind of working through that, right?
Yep. So we haven't really gone through the first process yet, right?
Yeah. So we'll just kind of table that one until we get Mitchell and Oliver together. This item here about should we change DNNTAG to core team was brought up by Peter, and we can discuss that. My only 2 cents would be when you say the difference between like an advisory and a core team from like external, from people in the community, I think they would feel like, well, the technology advisory group is kind of, giving their insight or perspective on things, and where a core team are actually people that are slinging code. Now, it doesn't matter to me which one we are. I just think they have different context and perspective.
I think that
they're going to think like, oh, these guys are actually.
It comes a lot down to perception, and in my opinion, core team doesn't necessarily mean you're always slinging the code. It's just that the advisory group sounds a lot like committee designed by committee. The bureaucratic process also, shelved and archived reports and all that kind of stuff. Whereas core team sounds like the people that kick ass. So,
yeah, I mean, so my only thing is the expectations that people will have when they hear the term core team, and that's fine. I mean, I just think we need to be aware of it, right?
Well, I think, and also it sends a signal in that sense to ourselves. It loops back, because those expectations, I think, will be beneficial to the group.
Because it'll bring accountability.
Exactly.
So, what is everybody else's thoughts on changing the name? Because I mean, I can bring that up with Andy too.
I think this is another Andy's question. I think it was. I will tell you that when those advisory groups were being formed, right after the purchase of the company, it was advised against that name, core team, because of that whatever connotation it had. This was going to be a more democratic group as opposed to an elite group. So but I think that's something that Andy has to finally approve.
Yeah, and I know I strongly prefer advisory group over core team because of that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, that's, yeah, so two visions.
Or the other thing is it too early to call it out? I mean, I think we were barely in this group, we're barely first quarter, right? Quarter in
Mhm.
its full force, right? We've been meeting every week now
Right.
for almost like 4 months. But is it too early to say? Maybe perhaps in a couple of quarters to see. Does it make sense to change?
Well,
Not
I mean, what I found very encouraging is that I get the feeling we're currently more in control of the roadmap than we've ever been
of course.
in the past 10 years. And that actually has prompted this more than anything else, I think.
Right. So the one thing here is that I'll say one thing is that this group right now is free for all, right? Anybody in this group, some people are regulars here like this, just about everybody here is a regular. Some people come once a month, some people come twice a month, which is good, still better than nothing. And the moment you call it a core team, those guys will disappear. Now I've got no business here. I am a second person in that, even though there's slight interest, they're going to say this is an elite group.
Yeah, fair enough. I think you're right, and I maybe then also the counter argument for me is that there is always a danger that the group, how shall I say, bogs down in inaction, because after all, it is a free for all. So I don't really feel committed to my contributions here, as it's just an advice, whatever, do with it what you like. Whereas if you're in a situation where, oh, you're the core team and you're responsible for this, you look at security or whatever, you might have a few hours awake at night thinking like, did I cover all bases? Am I doing my job right?
Mm-hmm. I would like to, because basically I agree most with what Peter's saying. What I do understand though is that there has been a history of this name being having different meanings, and I kind of like the idea of how about we wait a little bit, especially because so far we haven't actually really achieved much. So in other words, kind of already giving us the new title feels like, well, a little early. So I kind of like the idea of, let's say, let's achieve something within the next 3 to 9 months and then look at it again. That's
right.
I think if we took real control over something, and like if we could do the builds, if we could do a release, if we could do something, then I think it would be more justified. But the history with that name and the fact that yes, we do have a better voice, we're there, we're a better voice, right, wrong, or indifferent, I guess. Hopefully we're not being recorded, but we're a better voice by proxy because there's now more of us than there are of them. It's not yet, right? Keys to castles and release process. Like, we don't have the power of a core team by what people would assume that means.
I don't see the value in like actually having the ability to press the button and say, okay, this is now released, when until now Ash has just been part of we, so to speak, right? So I mean, by proxy we do have that control if we just take the larger we as including Clint and Ash in this.
The node team is called the Technical Steering Committee, which avoids core team, but also I think has that idea of where making the decisions for the technology goes.
But I think that's a lot better. I guess also, just my 2 cents, we already have enough other stuff to bicker about and extend these meetings out and waste more time. Let's just call it the advisory group and get a leader, and then we can figure this crap out later. personally.
That's
I
good,
mean,
man.
because I know that from my time involvement perspective, we've got to get this moving this way and moving, or we're going to lose my ability to dedicate focus. We're going to lose other people's dedication. We're already seeing it, right? How many people have we lost in this meeting today alone because we don't have anything to propel us this way? So yes, names, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I do. But right, wrong, or indifferent, it's being able to accomplish something and to move forward that's more important than the name if we can't keep the attention of the people that are here.
Maybe a transition in multiple steps might be possible, and I think this technical steering committee sounds much better than the advisory group. But maybe Clint could talk to Andrew about his idea.
How about we do a quick vote, basically asking who would just want to say push this out for a while.
Yeah, I want to push out for a while.
Yeah, sure.
So-
Okay.
Okay, so don't give it to Andrew. Okay.
All right. So we will table that one for a little bit here. And looks like we got a couple action items. I'm trying to think, is there anything else we need to discuss before we adjourn here?
I think I got the action item for the GDPR.
Yeah, I've got my number one priority is GDPR right now for DNN.
But I need your input, and
Of course, yeah.
And I'm busy as well, of course, and I'm trying to.
I appreciate your time. Yeah.
I need to squeeze it in somehow.
Realize that.
Gotcha.
All right.
I also said wrote in the chat that regarding the pull request process, it's important for me as well, because George Alatrash asked me when he was still in the company to resubmit a couple of items I created before for, I think, 911 and 92, and they didn't get into it, and he wanted me to resubmit it, and but I didn't find the time. But at the moment, I don't want to update my pull request for every new DNN version. That doesn't make sense. If you he already did a review on it, and it seems that he wanted to integrate it. But we need some kind of process, because I don't want to waste my time updating the scripts all the time for every version, and then just getting told, "Oh, sorry, no."
Yeah, let's wait a little bit, Sebastian. I mean, we have, I don't know how much more we can process right now with regards to the changes for 9.3. I mean, GDPR itself is quite a bit of work. So why don't we stay focused on that? Perhaps right after that release, we can work on your other SQL updates.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. We appreciate the time.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
We'll probably see you all next week.
Nope.
See you.
Bye-bye.
All right, see y'all.